and feature voices and ideas that are not mainstream, because the mainstream has become so boring that it's nauseating. Just how about voices? I wanted to do an event called policemen and women speak. What do you call them? You don't say policemen and women. You call it the police force, whatever. They speak. Let people ask them questions, not aggress them, but just ask them questions. Why do you do this? How do you feel about that? Just to let voices that are not heard be heard. And you have a radio show. It's a place you can really do something.
But my show is a little bit different. My show is conspiracy and paranormal. And,
okay, that's what we're going to talk about, because I just wrote a paranormal book.
Yeah, we're going to do that after the top of the hour. Now, a question there. James, are you still there with some questions to ask Judie?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hi, Judie. I'm James. How you doing?
Hello, James.
I'm curious, you mentioned something about fracking. I have seen fracking stuff here in the Midwest where people, they can turn on their water faucet and the water catches fire and it's getting into the streams.
Where is it? Where have you seen this? Oh, my God, that's horrible. Where is that?
All out through the Midwest, even out into Oregon, into Wyoming and stuff. And not only that, these companies can use 200 or 100, 200, a couple hundred different chemicals they put into the ground, and they have this law. It's kind of like secret recipe law, what they don't have to expose to the public what these chemicals are. And, they're all bad stuff, cancer-causing stuff, and it's just, I've seen streams wasted and livestock. It's horrendous.
Oh, okay. Where do you live?
I live in Ohio, but this is going all through the country. It's not just here. It's all.
What can you're obviously articulate and intelligent and concerned. What can you personally do about this, James? What is it in your power to do?
I don't know about my power. It's a hard thing, because what they do, these companies, they come in because a lot of these people that own the land, they're in hard times. So what they'll do, they'll offer them crazy amount of money. So of course they're going to take it, and they've never seen money like this, and they're down on their luck. They own a lot of land, but they're down on their luck, and so that's it. It's like take 3 steps forward and 4 steps backwards. It's a losing cause. It's got me concerned anyway. I just don't know what the answer is.
But I don't know that there's an answer. But is there some forum where do you live in Ohio? I like Ohio a lot. Do you live anywhere near Columbus?
Yeah, about 80 miles from there, I guess.
About 80 miles from there. But is there any elected official, some government official, who is concerned about this, who would hold a community meeting? Can you start by having people voice their concerns, and then the press would cover it? Start that conversation. Can that be done?
I don't know. It's something I'll have to look into. I do know most of the politicians, they're in the pockets. These oil companies, they're trillionaires, so they've got everybody in their pockets. They've already they've did their
yes.
Believe me, it filters down all the way to the politicians first. So it's a tough one to crack. I do know that.
But there will be. And how about our kids speaking out about it in that area?
That's the thing. They're not speaking. Go ahead. I was going to say they're not speaking out enough against it. No, not at all. Not really.
It's terribly, terribly sad. And, every day there's a new assault on humans, on their values, on money. You don't know where to look first, so it's very, very hard. There's so many diversionary tactics. You don't know where to put your energy. But in my opinion, you choose something and you start and you do something about it. Each one of us. You have to. And it could be just have a community meeting, put an ad in the paper, say you want to get together and talk about fracking. Any place is a good place to start. That's my experience. And you don't let anything stop you. You just do it. We were recently in Columbus, which I happen to love. And we were there on Columbus Day, by the way, which was interesting. Anyway, I heard that there were Somali refugees there. Have you met them at all?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay. So nobody, they know there are Somali refugees in Minnesota, and there are in Columbus. It's a resettlement place. And there's nothing. And I said, I'd like to go meet people in the Somali community. And everybody said to me, why are you interested in that? It's nothing. They're poor people who came from Somalia. I said, I'm just interested. I don't know anything about Somalia. I'd like to meet some Somali person. So finally, I was annoying enough that they took me to meet them. It was such an eye-opener about who these people are. They have gotten together. One of them has founded a refugee center where she has set up a whole office where people come, they get free help. Another person was running for office there. Another one opened up a restaurant. Another one was in a mosque, and they said, people of all faiths, we are open, come in, let's learn about each other. And finally, the tourism board, the people are wonderful in the tourism board in Colombia, they started sponsoring Somalia Day, and I heard it was a wild success. So if you start anywhere, and these people, they're refugees, can you imagine what they've lived through in Somalia? So you start someplace. Everybody, we can't just say, oh, let's be good people. We have to start someplace and see if we can move the dial just a tiny bit in some area of life. You're concerned about fracking. I would be trying to organize a meeting. I don't care if 5 people come. Start somewhere. And you call the newspapers, you call the, whatever media you have locally, and you say, we're having this meeting, and people are going to voice their concerns about fracking. Because, in my opinion, if you don't do something, then you're paralyzed with being unhappy and miserable, not knowing what to do. I think it's a call to action for whatever concerns you, whatever you'd like to try to make better. That's it. What do you think?
I think you got very good points there. I agree with you. Another thing that you touched on was insurance companies, and I got to tell you something. 20 years ago, my now deceased wife, we was in a hospital. I won't mention the hospital, but it was in Cincinnati, and we was in the emergency room. And while we was there, somebody was in a car wreck, and we could hear the doctors and these bigwigs talking right next door, and they could save this person. However, they had very little or no insurance, but they were an organ donor. So they said it's better off to keep them alive. Tell the family, it's probably best to let them pass, and they're an organ donor, and they could save a lot more lives that way instead of going ahead and they could have saved him. But I'm hearing this whole conversation. They don't have enough insurance, so it's like, just tell them to let them pass, and we're going to take their organs. I was blown away by hearing this stuff. This was like 20 some years ago.
Hey, James, that hasn't changed. When I was in the hospital, right, I was in a lot of pain. Here I was in the emergency room. Now, I don't see the doctor right away. I see a couple of nurses come. They give me some morphine. But who's there? The person who registers you in the hospital, wanting you to give them your insurance card, your Medicare card. That was the most important thing. After you dealt with them, the doctor would come in. They wanted to find out if you had insurance.
Insurance, that's, Yep. That's it, for profit, everything. But I am no longer interested in just bemoaning how bad things are. I just think we need to expand our notions of what we can do. And it could be very small to start. But, James, you could write a letter and to some local publication and just say about how you're haunted by this experience, about hearing them talk about somebody because they didn't have insurance, and say, why don't we have insurance for everybody in the United States? It's the richest country in the world. Every country in Europe has it. I just came back from Cuba. Everyone has medical care wherever I go. And just write a letter. Do something, because if we just sit around wringing our hands, it will just get worse. But if you do something, you go to bed at night, and you have some sense that you've tried to be on the side of solution, and you get up in the morning and you have some sense of why you're putting your foot on the ground and why you're consuming air on this planet. That's my feeling.
Hey, James, could you imagine if that family would have heard what the doctors were talking about in the background? Here they could have saved the guy, but, that wasn't their main concern. Oh, hey, well, he has organs. It can be, donated to help save somebody's life. I would think that the number one thing would have been to save that guy's life. I mean, that's what scares me. And, how would that family feel, their loved ones, to realize that somebody just passed on and could have been saved, but no, they didn't have enough insurance or no insurance at all?
And that blew me away. And what people don't realize, too, is these hospitals and the middlemen, they make a lot of money off these organs. It's mind-blowing. And I actually was going to say something, and my poor deceased wife at the time, she was in such bad shape, she didn't want me to leave her side, and I didn't say nothing. But it really opened my eyes up, because I made sure from that point on I was not an organ donor. At least I didn't want it to be known that I was one, because, my goodness, I didn't have any insurance at that time.
Well, you're lucky we don't live in China. I guess even in China, it is so bad that they have medical teams just kidnapping people right off the streets to remove their organs. They're prisoners. They shoot them in the head because, you know why? Because they sell their organs worldwide. I mean, it's a big commodity in China.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, the species is an Edsel. We're an Edsel species. It's a bad design. What if the species devours its own and abuses its own? We're Edsels.
Well, we have to be, Judy, because you know what? A professor in Sweden here this week is talking about, we should take older people when they die and recycle them. And his idea of recycling, like I mentioned jokingly this week, Soylent Green, the old movie that Charlton Heston was in, where people would go to basically, when they got to a certain age, they go into this fancy room, they would show pictures and movies what the earth was like, and then they would terminate them, and the people didn't realize what was going to happen to their bodies. They got thrown into a laundry basket or a cart, taken down the end of the hallway, and dumped in on a conveyor belt to be made into these cubes, what was called Soylent Green, that people were eating to survive. This professor has been talking openly that we should recycle older people. It's nothing wrong with eating dead people. That, in the next 20 years, we're going to have a major food shortage. I heard that, and it made me sick to my stomach. And people in that country were listening to this guy.
Okay. What can you say?
That's in Sweden.
The only thing maybe that we have any control over is where we place our attention, what we pay attention to. Maybe that's all that you have your body. We each have a body, whatever shape it's in. And then you have your time. You have time, and you have where you put your attention on a minute-by-minute basis. And that's it. If you put your attention on how many things are horrible in the world, I don't know. That's a choice. I think there are places you can put your attention that make it feel better to be alive. That's all.
Well, that's what I tried doing on my show. Of course, we cover, everything from, like your book here tonight, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes, to aliens, to ghosts, to all that stuff. But you know what? There's a lot of people who want this information. So we just make that available with the guests, and we spread it out. But, people are wanting to know things, what is going on out there, and why they're not getting the information. Hey, anyway, we need to go on a 4-minute break, so if you want to get something to drink or whatever, we'll be back in 4 minutes. Everybody, check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be back in 4, so everybody have a good one.